Welcome to American Players Theater Talkbacks to Go. I'm Buzz Kemper, and I invite you to take a walk up the hill with Orange Schroeder and me as Orange chats with director William Brown and actor Matt Schwader about APT's production of The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
We are talking about Oscar Wilde's The Importance of Being Earnest, and I have with me director William Brown and Matt Schwader, who is playing Jack Worthing. And we're really excited about APT doing The Importance of Being Earnest this year because it's Oscar Wilde's most popular work and a great romp, perfect for the main stage at APT up the hill. I wanted to start by asking Bill, what makes Ernest so popular?
I've never directed it. I was in it a number of years ago, playing Jack.
Playing Jack.
Yeah, and we realized there's almost too many punchlines. There's so much funny that at some point you just have to go, calm down, let us let us get to the end of this line. Oscar Wilde is in this tradition of great English comic writers that probably begins with Shakespeare and goes through the Restoration and Sheridan and on to Shaw and Coward and Stoppard, which, you know, we're doing travesties as well by Tom Stoppard. But he takes an idea, throws it up in the air, spins it a couple of times, throws it again up in the air. I mean, his ideas are contradictions within contradictions, irony on top of irony, and yet it is truly a romance. It's a romance times three of these three couples that you find yourself rooting for, in spite of all the silliness. But it's silly in a almost deconstructive way. It's silly in terms of taking our ideas about society, home, religion, anything, and just putting a spin on it that's irresistible.
Now, in part because you're also doing travesties this year, you're changing the time period for the importance of being earnest. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. We have essentially the same design team, two different set designers, but we all have worked together from the beginning on both plays. Travesties has to take place in the middle of World War I. It takes place in 1917. So, and this was particularly Matt Lefebvre, our costume designer. He was rather intrigued by the idea of moving it into the 20th century, if barely. 1913, the war really introduced the 20th century that we all know. But it's that romantic yet sharp look of 1913. I tell people Ernest is Downton Abbey the first year, and Travesties is Downton Abbey the second year, if they're keeping score. But it does, I mean, even in the furnishings, we find that there's a sharpness to it. There's a, hey, we're modern kind of thing that is invigorating. It's exciting.
And Matt, are you in both plays?
I am, yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what that process is for you?
Well, fortunately, we're not doing them at exactly the same time, so I can focus on the two different characters a little, distinctly, which is sort of great. They're vastly different characters. They're not the same at all. And in Importance of Being Earnest, Jack Worthing, I mean, what I love about the role is it's about a person learning to find out that it's okay to be himself. The things that he might, think inappropriate or in order to uphold a sense of decorum or decency, he's denying himself the opportunity to be himself a little bit and be playful in all aspects of his life. And that's sort of kind of what I'm hinging that character and looking in that direction on that guy. And the responsibility that he feels. And I guess that might be the one thing that is sort of in common with Tristan Tzara in the other one, is a responsibility to their committed art form, be it raising this girl and living a responsible, respectable lifestyle for Importance of Being Earnest, or Tristan Tzara, whose art form is all about deconstructing everybody's experience of art or experience of life as it is. But they're completely different characters. Yeah, so as far as Tristan Tzara, I've got to learn a Romanian dialect. I've got to study Dadaism, and it's a lot of fun. It's going to be exciting.
Now, you mentioned the lifestyle that Jack is representing, and of course, Oscar Wilde is probably the first acknowledged homosexual writer, and the play can be viewed as being a satirization of marriage and Victorian manners from either a heterosexual or a homosexual viewpoint. Do you want to speak to that, Bill?
Well, it's a thoroughly heterosexual story. I mean, it is about boys and girls. However, the sensibility is gay. I mean, I just think it's, and I can say that it is the observer who can pass. He was from middle-class Irish family. He went to dinner with princes and princesses and countesses. He passed in society. He passed in a heterosexual world. He had a wife and children. But there's something, someone who's passing, someone who's not fully acknowledging who they are, and more he did, and ended up doing 2 years hard labor for it. But it gave him. I think that's what's delightful about the play, if you want to say it. It gave him a way to look at all of this and just go, isn't all this silly? But in the most affectionate way. I don't think he tears down any of the things he pokes fun at.
And can you give us the quote about Oscar Wilde and the 20th century male homosexual?
I said, rather flippantly, that Freud may have invented the homosexual, but Oscar Wilde made it fun. And by that I mean, I think travesties is about three major revolutionaries of the 20th century: Lenin, James Joyce, and Tristan Tzara, one of the founders of the Dada movement. And I think Oscar Wilde invented a template for the 20th century gay man. And I say that broadly, but I think in the 21st century, it's loosened up in a rather healthy way. I think if you're gay, you can be whatever the heck you want to be now. But it's interesting.
And certainly at the time that the play was written, that was not the case at all. And his lover's father had planned to disrupt the play by throwing a bouquet of rotten vegetables at the playwright when he took his bow at the end of the show. You can't even imagine that happening today. For one thing, we don't have much of a tradition of throwing rotten vegetables. But can you talk about what happened when Wilde was arrested while the play was running?
Well, they took his name off the play. They took Oscar Wilde's name off the play while it was a huge hit, you have to understand. It was also playing at the same time as either Lady Windermere's Fan or another Wilde play. Huge hit. And they took his name off the play when the case came to light. And eventually it closed after, I think, 80-some performances. And it really wasn't revived again until after he died. And
even it was not until 1967 when England decriminalized homosexuality.
Yeah.
So it was a long tradition that of suffering that his work very happily survived. What do you think makes the play so timeless?
I think we're just delighted at his. I don't want to diminish it, but impishness, his outrageous ability to take a look at something and go, yeah, well, it could be that, but it could be that, but it's, one of my favorite lines, when Lady Bracknell gets there, it comes to Algernon's house, she says, I've just had tea with Lady Harbour, her husband, I haven't seen her since her husband died. She's, oh shoot, I'm going to forget the line.
It's about the blonde hair.
Yeah. She seems to be living quite for joy now. And Algernon says, yes, her hair's gone quite gold with grief.
But that's the thing, I think, about the play is that it pokes it pokes fun at ourselves, all of us, not necessarily one particular group or another, but in the most honest and loving way. Yeah. So that things that could mean nothing mean everything. And the big things don't particularly matter. That whole sequence of, I want to ask you, what do you want to do tonight? And I was like, well, no, I don't want to go there. I hate listening. I hate looking. I hate talking about things. Well, what should we do? Nothing. Well, I hate doing nothing, but I kind of enjoy it if I don't have to work at it. It's something I think we can all relate to. Yeah. Oddly enough, we all get angry about the small things, and sometimes the big things we let go by and go, it'll work out.
I also think it's a sexier play than we might have remembered.
Definitely.
I mean, not just the two young couples, but Miss Prism and Chasuble. I mean, there's something. It's for real, those romances.
Oh, absolutely.
And we happen to have these wonderful actors, all of whom are incredibly attractive, and I think that's given the play another sort of. It's sharpened it in another way.
Well, the wit is sexy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
That's what is your favorite scene or speech?
Oh, my favorite scene or speech. Oh, I don't know that I have one yet. I often have ones I enjoy doing a lot, and then ones I enjoy watching. You know what I mean? I'm really just kind of enjoying the experience of working with Marcus. We're finding, I think, a nice foil for one another. And just a few days ago, I realized how ridiculous he can stand there in front of me, and all I need to do is just look at him. Like, what are you? How dare you?
It's true.
And that's really fun for me to be in those moments. So I don't know. The whole play, I don't know. I love it's so lame to say, but I really enjoy the whole show.
Do you find it hard not to crack up?
We have had a few difficult we've had a few difficult moments, yeah.
That's a challenge with live theater. You can't cut that part.
Right.
Absolutely.
The play was originally subtitled A Serious Comedy for Trivial People.
There you go.
But then it got changed to A Trivial Comedy for Serious People. Bill, do you want to talk about that?
Do we know if Oscar made that change? I'm assuming too. Is there much difference? It sounds like that's a big difference, and yet it's just another turnaround that he does linguistically all the time. I mean, the fact that there are two women in this play who have to marry a man named Ernest. And yet it's so real to them. We believe it without going, what?
Why?
What the heck?
Well, and also the play on being earnest and being named Ernest. I mean, it's a brilliant title to begin with for the kind of,
of course,
humor that Wilde brings to us and which APT is so good at bringing to us on the Hill. So thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talkbacks to Go is a production of Orange Tree Imports, Pro Video and Film, and Audio for the Arts. Your host is Orange Schwader. I'm Buzz Kemper. Our music is by Steve Tibbetts and is used by permission of the artist. Please find us on iTunes and YouTube under APT Talkbacks to Go. Thank you for listening.